Welcome to Law and Society, everybody. We're going to be talking about a bunch of things today. The pace of news coming out is really something to behold. If you were to tell somebody 10 years ago that this is how much consequential news will come out on a daily basis, people would not believe you. But here we are. So today I'll talk about elections, about President Reagan's video, about tariffs, about rich oligarchs and migrant children and SNAP programs being ended because of the shutdown or because of the fact that they were just not part of the funding that was appropriated by the House, provisions which the Democrats don't want to approve. So there's so many things. So let's just get started. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And please, sharing is critical. Thank you very much in advance. And let's start. So the Department of Justice announced that it would be monitoring elections in California and New Jersey. In a statement delivered by Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, the Department of Justice will do everything necessary to protect the votes of eligible American citizens, somehow inferring that non-eligible American citizens vote in large numbers, which is not true at all, ensuring our elections are safe and secure. Transparent election processes and election monitoring are critical tools for safeguarding our elections and ensuring public trust in the integrity of our elections. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't feel safe or trusting of the federal government's executive branch overreaching into elections when there's no need or constitutional authority. State authorities are more than capable of monitoring elections. So now that they're monitoring, how long before they seize the machines and do the counting themselves? How long before they disappear opposing votes? What if they get into the polling booths and intimidate voters to vote a certain way? What if they bribe people or threaten people to vote a certain way? Or else? This type of thing regularly happens in flawed democracies all over the world, where millions of people are preempted from voting for who they would like. They are not provided with information about the people who are opposing the ruling regime, and governments roll on for decades and decades under this flawed democracy idea where the sitting authoritarian regime controls the polling booths. What if they compromise the election system in the name of safeguarding it? States have election security and monitors in place unless there's a specific reason for it that federal agencies would come in. Otherwise, generally, federal agencies stay away, especially for off-year state elections. But however, here we are in the middle of a shutdown, in the middle of Donald Trump's expanding police state, that Donald Trump has sort of slid in this beginning of the federal government's encroachment into our polling booths. And that is an ominous place for us to be. Let me rephrase that. We're in an ominous place, okay? The East Wing, not the West Wing. That would be, I don't even know. The East Wing of the White House has been destroyed, okay? The National Guard and ICE agents are going around in large cities from New York to Chicago to Los Angeles to Portland to New Orleans to Memphis, I don't know what else did I miss. Washington, D.C., and they're planning on going into San Francisco apparently, and they're probably going to keep on going in and causing this sort of terror. And we're in the middle of this hot mess, remember. And in the middle of this, Donald Trump has stopped all trade negotiations with Canada. Why? Because Ontario has bought ads for the World Series telling Americans the truth about tariffs that President Reagan informed us about. And Donald Trump said that Canada was cheating in that video by trying to reach out to the American people with lies when it's not a lie. And what's really puzzling to me is the Reagan Foundation has protested the use of that President Reagan's words as well. While the fact is that President Reagan's video has been in the public domain for years now. And he says what he says. Unless, and I provided a link for it, if for some reason they pull that down. But so far there is a link on YouTube where you can listen to that address that President Reagan makes. So Canada did not cheat. President Reagan did speak the words in Ontario's ad. Donald Trump's man-baby decision to cut trade talks with Canada because this drives a deeper rift between the two countries. While Canada works to remind Americans of who we are and the truth about tariffs, Donald Trump is lying to the American people with a straight face. The party of Reagan is dead. Even the Reagan Foundation seems to be in agreement with Trump, which is kind of mind-boggling to me because they themselves and Reagan's words have been in the public domain for so long that it is what it says. There's no falsity. It wasn't uploaded. There's no recently uploaded. There's no AI involved here. This is an old video recording that was posted on YouTube years ago. So today's GOP has no regard for Reagan. Not even his own words and not even his own foundation will stand up for Reagan's own words. MAGA is not the GOP as it was when Reagan was president. MAGA has no moral compass. And MAGA will keep lying to the American people and tearing our republic apart if we don't stand up and get in the way. And as we move forward with the news, I want to remind you about the tariff ruling and the case that will be heard in a little more than a week by the Supreme Court, which is Voss Selections versus Trump, that talks about the tariffs that Donald Trump has been imposing on countries on the basis of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And the Court of International Trade has ruled, and then it has been affirmed by the Circuit Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, that Donald Trump used the wrong law because IEPA does not give presidents authority to tariff. It gives presidents authority to regulate trade. And the court made clear distinction that the word regulate and the word tariff are not synonyms. They don't mean the same things. And the power to tariff has to be given by Congress very specifically to the president for the president to use the tariffing power that Congress possesses by way of the Constitution's Article 1. So that's where the law stands on Donald Trump's tariffs. Remember that. Donald Trump's tariffs are invalid because Donald Trump used the wrong law. IEPA does not give presidents power to tariff. It only gives presidents power to regulate. Regulate does not mean tariff. And therefore, the tariffs are invalid under the current law that is being used. Donald Trump needs congressional authorization on specific tariffs on specific countries to be able to be valid, for those tariffs to be valid. Now I want to move slightly on to remind you of Donald Trump's enablers. Never forget his enablers. Caroline Leavitt, Mr. Hassard of the Economic Council, spokesperson, J.D. Vance, Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Stephen Miller, Russell Vought, Steve Bannon, and Fox News, and all other, and if you look at the list of names that have been credentialed by the Pentagon to be able to go in and be the press corps, you will see that there are people there who were and probably are connected to Russian entities, and along with the corruption of our government from within and the destruction being brought by Stephen Miller and Russell Vought, there are donors like Timothy Mellon who gave $130 million to pay for what? For the Department of Defense for the shutdown? I don't really know. It's $130 million, which is like change for, it's like spare change for the Defense Department and won't even cover the cost for one day. And people like Peter Thiel and the Adelson family and other corporate donors who want the corporate oligarchical ballroom. And with that symbolic ballroom, they want an oligarchy to flourish in America, headed by an authoritarian leader that has tacit control of the economy and police state crushing down on individual rights. Well, that is fascism, and it is here, and it is trying to clamp down. American people have to get in the way. They are a threat to American democracy because they do not consider the well-being of all, which is myopic and which is really stupid on their part, because they wouldn't be where they are without America and American democracy working for the past few generations and uplifting people out of poverty into a place of privilege. And to that extent, Donald Trump inherited a lot of money from his father, Fred Trump, because of property that they owned in Manhattan. But when Fred Trump owned it, it wasn't nearly as valuable as it became later on. And that is by the exponents, and so the real estate growth and the real estate economy and the economy of New York is what created Donald Trump and gave him all that money. And now he betrayed New York, and everybody in New York knows exactly what he is, and they don't really, so he's no longer there. He's now in Florida. But it is clear that this class of oligarchs are adamant about their own well-being and their own well-being only. And that is not to the benefit of we the people. Now let's talk a little bit about immigration. So news came out about how the regime is fining migrant children $5,000. And I'm like, what the F is the point of fining unaccompanied migrant children $5,000? Where do you think they're going to get that money? I mean, I understand that this is meant as a deterrence for other teenagers or unaccompanied migrant children to come over to the United States. But if you're fining the ones here $5,000, where are they going to get that $5,000? And then so the story, I read it from Ross' story. It says other fees created by the new law, which is the big bad bill, they call it the big beautiful bill, is the new law includes $100 to apply for asylum plus $100 per year the application is pending, $550 for asylum seekers to apply for a work permit, and $5,000 for anybody ordered removed in absentia and then arrested by ICE. Lack of clarity over exactly how and when you pay the $100 fee recently sparked panic among asylum seekers in New York, with the help, obviously, of disinformation and potential scam. NBC reported that the federal government is then, just think about the chaos here. So it's throwing this chaos of finding unaccompanied migrant children and then also throwing out misinformation about it. It is ambiguous about the process of asylum seeking. And then the federal agency's government is also offering unaccompanied migrant children under 14 and older, $2,500 to leave the United States on their own volition or self-deport back to their countries, according to a memo sent by the Department of Health and Human Services and obtained by NBC News. So, okay, so do you want to fine them $5,000 or do you want to give them $2,500 to deport? Like, which is it? It's so far the news is chaos, right? And we are living in this chaos. And I'm just talking about one chaos, and I feel like talking about another chaos, but I can't talk about all of it. And it's a hot mess. And that is exactly what Donald Trump wants for our country to be in chaos. So we are so busy trying to make ends meet for ourselves, scrounging here and scrounging there, that we don't get to see the destruction of the state, that we don't get to really see or care about the overreaching police state that is encroaching on individual rights, because we are more concerned about filling our stomachs. And this is the last topic I want to talk about, and I'll end with. So SNAP, which is a Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is set to end, and the federal government says that no food aid benefits will be issued next month, which is Thanksgiving month. Reuters reports that more than 41 million people are set to lose Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits. Mayors and Democrats in the House of Representatives have said that the USDA should use the multi-billion-dollar in contingency funds to partially fund November benefits. The memo said the agency will not draw on the funds because they are not legally available to cover the benefits and will reserve them for responding to natural disasters and other emergencies. I will just point out here that famine is considered a natural disaster. I don't know what you call the manufactured famine, which is what the federal government is doing right now and is playing with the lives of people and trying to blame it on Democrats when Democrats want the funding for SNAP to continue, when Democrats want the tax subsidies for Affordable Care Act to continue, where Democrats want them to take back the $1 trillion in cuts that they turned into law in the big bad bill. That's what Democrats are saying. If you do those things, we will allow you to pass this continuing resolution. But if you don't, the country will feel it on November 1st, and then the Republicans will realize that the people will rise up, and that I think that is what's going to break the camel's back. I think that's going to be the moment where millions and millions come onto the streets in spontaneity because half of them are out in lines at food pantries and food kitchens anyway. Which is, reminds me, remember to look up Google food pantry, food bank near me. And there's going to be a food bank and a food pantry, food kitchen near you. And donating your money, your time to those programs in your neighborhoods, in your towns, is the most help you can provide, because millions of people across the country are going to lose supplemental nutrition program assistance so that they can get the basic food that they need. Reuters goes on, SNAP contingency funds are only available to supplement regular monthly benefits when amounts have been appropriated for, but are insufficient to cover benefits. So they're saying that because the appropriation hasn't happened, the contingent money cannot be used, which makes no sense whatsoever. The contingency fund is not available to support fiscal year 2026 regular benefits because appropriation for regular benefits no longer exists. I mean, it's kind of like the snake eating its own tail. You have a contingent fund, but you won't use it because the regular benefits have not been appropriated for. Then what is the contingency there for? Heather Cox Richardson, in Letters from an American today, says and summarizes this, and I'm going to end with that. Yesterday, the Trump administration said it would not use any of the approximately $6 billion the U.S. Department of Agriculture holds in reserve to fund the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The government shutdown means the states have to run out of funds to distribute to more than 42 million Americans who rely on SNAP to put food on the table. Roll Call's Olivia Bridges notes that this position contradicts the shutdown plan the USDA released in late September. Then it said, congressional intent is evident that SNAP's operations should continue since the program has been provided with multi-year contingency funds that can be used for state administrative expenses to ensure that the state can continue operations during a federal government shutdown. These multi-year contingency funds are also available to fund participant benefits in the event that a lapse occurs in the middle of the fiscal year. Yesterday's USDA memo also says that any states that tap their own resources to provide food benefits will not be reimbursed. Professor Richardson ends her letter with, "What are we doing here?" It's unbelievable. November is the beginning of the holiday season. And the government has been shut down because Republicans want to take away basic health care from millions of Americans. And you're seeing Americans getting information about how their health care premiums are going to go up 2 to 3 times as much. You know how Donald Trump likes talking about exponents and 200 and 300%. It's going to go up 300%. The premiums of individuals for their health care, because Republicans will not extend the Affordable Care Act tax subsidies. Just that would be enough for the Democrats to say, okay, we'll open the government and negotiate about what happens with SNAP assistance and what happens with the Medicaid cuts that you have made in the big bad bill. But Donald Trump will not negotiate. He's in Japan or Malaysia dancing. Like, is that how you take care that the laws be faithfully executed? Is that how you defend and protect the American people? Is that how you maintain the tranquility of a peaceful society? Is that how you promote the general welfare of our country? No, that is not. That is irresponsible and absent, derelict president who wants to be a dictator and destroy our republic. This is the hot mess that we are in as we go into the holiday season. And I want people to be aware of it. And I've gone on for 25 minutes. I thank you very much for listening to me. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help me out. And I want to thank everybody who watches any part of what I have to say, because I'm here to warn, I'm here to inform, and I hope I'm informing at least one of you. Thank you so much. Take care.